Okay, so for the last 2 weeks, we've spent our time looking at polynomials and how to perform operations on polynomials. One of the things that you looked at was how to multiply polynomials together, and that included FOIL and multiplying binomials. This week we begin chapter 5, which is probably the single most important chapter that we will cover in this class. Chapter 5 is all about factoring, which is the process of breaking those polynomials apart and coming up with the two binomials that were multiplied together to create the polynomial. The biggest thing that you need to know about factoring is it's really, in the end, a guessing game. No matter how good you get at the process of factoring, you're always just using your best educated guess. What that means is that when you're done, you absolutely have to go back and you have to multiply it back out and check your work. And if you don't, you're going to end up with little tiny mistakes that you easily could have caught and fixed. So this week, same material, preview questions, group work, and then an introduction to factoring. And in that introduction to factoring, you're going to see factoring out a greatest common factor and just the basics of what the process looks like. You're going to look at factoring factoring four-term polynomials using grouping, and then we'll get into factoring trinomials and then factoring binomials. And all of this is building to next week where we'll actually apply this and learn how to factor any polynomial that you see. What I want to point out, though, is that as you look at this, here are two polynomials, x squared plus 5x plus 6 and x squared plus 5x minus 6. And those look like almost exactly the same polynomial, the only difference being the sign on the constant term here. What you see here, though, is that they factor completely differently. And this is what I mean by it's just a guessing game. You're going to look at this and you're going to develop a process in your head for how to factor these polynomials. But in the end, one different sign, one plus sign that becomes a minus, suddenly leads to a factorization that looks completely different. And so you always want to make sure that when you're done, you assume you made a mistake and you check your work and make sure that you've done things correctly. All right, like always, if you have any questions, send me an email.